ಇದು ಸೆಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
Hello, Anusha. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
I can
Shall
hear
we
you.
start now? Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. Shall we start now?
Yeah. Can I
Okay.
start?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, I think we can start. Hello, namaste, and good afternoon. This is Anusha Rai with you today. On behalf of our Optum IBITS organizing team, I would like to welcome you all to this e-learning session organized by ForOptom. Here's a brief introduction of our program. IBITS e-learning session is initiated by ForOptom, and it is an interactive program where we discuss optometric topics. And today we have Mr. Avinash V Prabhu with us, who is going to talk on research questioning framing. Before moving to the actual talk, I would like to give a brief introduction about our speaker today. Mr. Avinash V. Prabhu graduated from the prestigious Manipal University in 2011 and holds a master's in clinical optometry from the same university in 2014. He is currently principal of Nasima Institute of Optometry and Research, Bangalore. Mr. Avinash has a vast experience in teaching core optometry, subjects especially pediatric optometry, dispensing optics, ocular diseases, and research methodology. He holds fellowship in public health and community optometry from ASCO, India. He also holds fellowship in medical education from Manipal Feimer Institute, Philadelphia. He is also a member of International Ergonomic Association Australia. He has presented many papers in national and international conferences. He has published several papers at the national and international level and guides optometry students in several projects. He has a keen interest in optometry education with a teaching experience of over 6 years at several schools and colleges of optometry across the country. On behalf of our Optom organizing team and our audience, I would like to welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Anusha, and thank you for this wonderful moment and occasion. I especially like to thank the ForOptom team, which is led by Mr. Satyam, and good to see such kind of platforms where we are making use of our current situations now. Online courses, online learning, e-learning, this has become the mandate of the recent days. So there have been a lot of very important topics which has been covered up in this particular e-learning sessions. So today yet again we will go across with another important topic which we all should be much aware of, and which is a part and parcel of our academics as well as our clinical workload. So today's topic will be on framing of a research question. It's a very important topic, not only for the students, but also for the people who are into the academics, and also for the people who are in the clinical services, and also for the researchers as well. Because research is the backbone of what all or whatever things are yet to come. So research is a forum where we get updated with our uh, latest updates, and that is a point from where we upgrade our knowledge. And also this upgraded knowledge, it is translated as a clinical service to our community. So the end product of a research program or end product of a research question or a project is the well-being of a society. So that is the end product. So to reach to that final level towards the well-being of the society, we as academicians as well as medical education students, we need to have certain framework or certain systematic approach by which we will come to this end task of giving good health to our community. So with that brief introduction, I think we will go ahead with today's topic of framing of research question. So the objectives of this session will be, at the end of the session, all the learners will be able to define research, apprise on the steps of framing research question, identify the keywords in question framing, and at the end, we will close with the list of few online databases as well. Right. So what is research? So the name research itself, it has got its meaning over there. So the Oxford Dictionary gives its definition as the systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Or if you divide the term research, you are searching which is already there. You are researching, right? You're not bringing something new in very layman term or common term. You are actually researching something. It's already there, but you are scrutinizing it, or you are again probing it, or maybe you're investigating or again reviewing it and coming out with some other outputs from that. So that is all about research. It's not like a you are creating something new, or you are you're discovering the idea there is, you're discovering there, right? So it's already there, something it is there, but you are just seeing it in a different angle, different thought process. You're trying to scrutinize it, probe it, and probably investigate and review it, and come out with some kind of other outcomes from already which is there, right? So that is uh, the term of the meaning of research. You're researching something which is already there. You're trying to understand, you're trying to unveil it, or you're trying to open it much more, which till now it has not been opened. So what is the need for research? So to advance knowledge for the good of society, to improve the health of people worldwide, to find better ways to treat and prevent diseases. Also, research has become an enterprise. It's an economic engine for the nations, especially it's one of the important aspects in the economic growth. And at the end, it is a benefiting factor to the patients, to the practicing clinicians, and well as the policymakers. So this is all about research. Why do we need research, right? So the end product of research is, it is the well-being of the society. So we, as the medical education professionals, so we are trying to bring, or we are trying to do something good to the society with some kind of evidences or some kind of researching here and there. So the end product is well-being to the society. So before we go ahead, maybe this thing will just brush on few basic stuffs. So ideally, studies can be divided into quantitative study and qualitative study. When it comes to quantitative means it deals with a number. So there are again different types of study designs. So the main is the experimental studies and the observational studies. Under experimental studies, we have RCT, that is randomized control trials, and non-RCTs. Here, what happens is the intervention will be there from the researcher, and we will see for what will happen after giving an intervention to a cohort of people or to a population. We will see what is the end product out of it. Whereas observational study, as the name itself suggests, it's observational. Subjects are observed, no action from the researcher over here, and it can be further divided into cohort studies, case control studies, cross-sectional studies, and also ecological studies. So most of our research topics, especially when it comes to UG level, we end up in the observational studies. That's at the cross-sectional study level, or maybe a little bit of cohort studies. We won't go much above. But if it is more towards a researcher or a person who is uh, pursuing his terminal degree, that's PhD, in that case, they will go with some higher order studies, experimental studies like an RCT, and depending on the kind of the research question, the type of study design also will vary. Just to give an overview of observational studies, subjects and variables pertaining to them are observed and described. No treatment or intervention takes place other than the continuation of the normal workflow. So there are major four main observational study types or designs here, that is case series, case control studies, cross-sectional studies, and as well as the cohort studies. Whereas when it comes to experimental studies, here subjects are subjected to some kind of treatments or interventions based on a pre-designated plan. Results in at least two groups of subjects that follow a different plan, and these can be compared to each other. And experimental studies are done to remove the bias. Bias is very evident in the observational study. And one of the classical examples of an experimental study is randomized control trials, or they are also known as an RCT. Right. Now, this is also a very important thing that we should be knowing at our base level. The evidence of pyramid. So which or what kind of study design is the top? So if you look at this pyramid over here, at the top or at the apex, we have systematic reviews, meta-analysis of RCTs. Next comes the RCT. So RCT is termed, or RCT is accepted as the topmost among the evidence giver. So if you look on the left side, there you got an arrow mark. Quality of evidence is higher, right? When you come towards an RCT or systematic review or meta-analysis, the quality of evidence is higher. But as you come down towards case control or cross-sectional case series, case reports, or editorials or expert opinion, the evidence is lower, right? On the right hand side, there is risk of bias. So if it is a RCT or if it is towards the apex of the pyramid, then the risk of bias is less. It means whatever the study reports are being generated, the bias is less. So those reports or those outcomes, they have a good amount of understanding, a good amount of the data. Whereas if you come down towards the case control, cross-sectional, or editorials or expert opinions, then the risk of bias is higher. It means you may get a good report, you may get a study done at the end of the day, but there is always a higher chance of bias in this kind of studies. So if you look on the quality of evidence side and the risk of bias, if you manage these two arms, then we can find out that an RCT or systematic review with the meta-analysis of an RCT, those are the highest among the peak of the pyramid of evidence. Okay, so now we need to have a good research question. So that is the topic of today's discussion. Need of good research question. Why is good research question required? A good research question forms the backbone of a good research. It identifies the problem to be studied and guides to the methodology, leads to building up of an appropriate hypothesis. It's the first critical steps in a research process. It means if your research question is good, the rest of the flow chart of research will go well. If your research question is fair enough, or if your research question is bad, in that case, the rest of the process will have its repercussions. So there is an acronym for this, finer maps. So it should be feasible. Any research question should be feasible. It should be interesting. It should be novel. It should be ethical, relevant, manageable, appropriate. It should have a potential value, and there should be publication aspect also, and finally systematic. Okay, so when I'm putting this term as a good research question, you can just randomly think about a research question now, maybe your UG topics or maybe your PG topics, the research which you're planning to or which you already are working on. You just think about a research topic and just try to see if this acronym of finer maps comes into it. Is your research question, is it feasible? Feasible in the sense, is it feasible to do at that particular point of time? I'll give an example. Say if you're planning to do a cross-sectional study and the base study from which you got an idea, there the sample size was, say, assume 4,000 or 5,000. And it's a very unique population on which they have tried. Now, if you're planning for a similar kind of a study, but little bit of change in the intervention, little bit of change in the observational pattern there, When you do a statistical uh, the sample size calculation, it's very evident that you will end up having a greater value or a greater number, right? So if you are pursuing it for your UG project, assume you're hardly having or 1 month or 2 months of UG project, how feasible it is to go and do or to go and collect this much amount of samples within this short period of time. So that is the feasibility. So feasibility in terms of time management, also feasibility in terms of money. So there could be few studies which require high-end machines. There could be few studies which require high laboratorical investigations for that. In that point of time, in those points of time, you need to see how feasible it is. Is it worth for me to invest lakhs on this particular topic or on this particular research question? So that feasibility aspect will come. Secondly, interesting. So the topic which I'm going to select, or the topic which already I have selected, is it interesting? At the end of my research, am I going to add something to the research community, or is it the same thing which has already been done before? So that talks about interesting. Next, novel. It should be a novel. It should be something unique idea. Okay, you can take the framework from a different study, idea from a different study, but when you're planning for your study, there should be some novelty, something new in that. It shouldn't be the same copy paste. If you're doing a copy paste of another research, it's more of a plagiarism and it's of no use of doing it. Simply a waste of time. Ethical. It should be ethical. So the studies, whatever you're planning, or the research question, whichever you're planning, it should be ethical, because since we are dealing with humans, right, we do the data collections or the samples we take from the humans, so we all are involved in that. So it should be ethical. Ethically, it should be proper, relevant. It should be relevant to the time, right? It shouldn't be irrelevant at that occasion of time. Say for example, I'll give you a simple understanding now. Because of the COVID-19, a lot of social distancing is in place, and uh, the government tells us that you should restrict yourself from getting close to the people. Maybe the virus can spread. It is just a hypothesis that virus can spread through the air, or maybe the outputs, maybe the saliva or the tears which comes from that infected person, and so on. So when this is the situation now, if you're saying no, I want to go and do a study to check the tear film on a person who has been infected with COVID-19, how relevant it is for this occasion? It's not relevant, right? And it's not a good question to think at this point of time. Yes, obviously, after the vaccines are come, right, then maybe we can think it. But now it is not relevant for the time. So the relevancy of the question should also be thought. Manageable, is it manageable in terms of time and money? Is it appropriate at this point? Is the research question which we are taking, is it appropriate to the study setting? So for example, if you are planning to do something on the pediatric age group on one particular locality, but in that locality the percentage of pediatric age group is very less, children are very less, so how appropriate is it? It's not appropriate. Then there should be some potential value and publishability. So this is a very important term, publishability. So there should always be a scope for publication, because the research is moving in such a way, our academics is moving in such a way, maybe by the end of next 3 or 4 years, when you're applying somewhere for your job, or if you want to pursue your higher education, one of the bars which will be checked or which will be assessed is the number of publications that you have, right? Even one publication, that's fine, that will do, that will add much more value to your CV. So publication, so the idea, the research topic should have an content of publication in that. And finally, it should be systematic, right? It shouldn't be very abrupt, it shouldn't be filled with confusion. There should be a systematic flow in the research question. So when you're planning for a research question or a research idea, let this acronym be in the mind: finer maps. It should be feasible, it should be interesting, it should be novel, ethical, relevant, manageable, appropriate, potential value and publishability, and also it should be systematic. Okay, let's go to the main crux of today's discussion, that is steps to frame a research question. So firstly, you need to identify a broader subject of interest that lends or that leads you to investigation. Say, for example, myopia or hypermetropia or astigmatism. That's how you start. Take a broader subject. Next, do some kind of preliminary research on a general topic to find out what research has already been done and what literature already exists. Right. So there is something known as literature review. So this is called as literature review. Some of the search engines are PubMed or Google Scholar, or it can be the Scopus or Sinhal or ProQuest. So these are the different search engines. So you need to go there. You need to type this. There is a method of how to search it. Probably if there is a time at then maybe I can just show you how to do it. So you need to go, you need to find out in that particular segment what are all the research that has come, and what are the, what research has been done and what literature is already existing. How old are those literatures? Are they very old or are they recent literatures? So that has to be checked. So when you do this checking or when you do this literature review, you will come up with something known as information gaps or the research gaps. Okay. What do you already know about the problem? For example, studies with results on pharmacology or non-pharmacology treatments and myopia. Say, for example, so now the broader area which you thought was myopia. So now you went and you started searching in PubMed, right, on preliminary search. Now, as you started searching more and more, you got some information gaps. Say, for example, you wanted to search the pharmacological approach on myopia or non-pharmacological approach on myopia, or which among this is good to control myopia. So this kind of an in-depth or narrowing will happen once you start searching. So that information gaps will be available. So these information gaps are available in each and every published literature. At the end, they will say, okay, in the discussion portion, they will discuss what are the new findings that they have got in that particular research, right? So that is the area where you get a lot of information gaps or the research gaps. So on that, you can further scrutinize your research question. Whatever research information gaps you get, whatever research gaps you get out of doing and preliminary research, you can further refine your research question. What do you still need to know? So say, for example, you want to check for the effective treatment to stop the progression. So that's how you go a step ahead and ahead. So first you identify a broader subject, do a preliminary research. After doing a preliminary research, you check for the information gaps or the literature reviews or literature gaps, and then you go further narrowing your topic. What are the implied questions? The need to know about a problem will lead to few implied questions. For example, how effective is gene therapy against optical correction in stopping of progress of myopia? I'm just giving an idea. Okay. So say, for example, if you go to the previously, when you started with a very broad topic of myopia, you further started some preliminary research, maybe literature review, and further your that broad topic of myopia, it became further narrowed down and further refined, and maybe you ended up having this: how effective is gene therapy against optical correction in the stopping of progression of myopia and myopia control, right? So that's how it becomes narrow and narrower. Further, you can narrow the scope of your search again, or you can narrow the scope of your research topic again and focus. Say, for example, you want to say on this particular age group of children, I want to check. So age groups also comes into the picture. Or maybe you want to check the myopia progression in the Indian context. So maybe the geographical location also comes into the picture, right? So the point which I'm specifying over here is you start with a broader topic. When you want to frame a research question, start with a broader topic and then do some preliminary research, do some literature reviews, go to PubMed or Sinhal or ProQuest. So there are a lot of this online databases. Go there, do a little bit of preliminary research, and at the end, you will get a good number of information gaps or research gaps. So with that, further try to narrow it down and refine your research question so that it becomes much more effective, right? So this is how you start with your research topic. You take the informations, check for its relevancy, and finally come back to a very concrete, refined topic of your research. And this requires time. This requires time. So it's not that within one night you sit and you get. No. If you want to do a good research topic, if you want to get a good research topic, so there is a hard work of more than a week's time. You need to sit, you need to discuss, you need to check, you need to once again check for different databases, get the informations over there, and and finally your research topic should be such that there hasn't been any such research topic of yours. It means there should be a little bit of novelty from your side. Some novelty has to come. So if you want to get novelty in your research topic or in your research question, then a lot of hard work has to be done in terms of literature reviewing. A lot of literature has to be reviewed. You need to read a lot of literatures, you need to download a lot of literatures, go for the discussion portions over there, see what is the new that they have found out. And finally, with those outputs, with those gaps in the research, that you can imbibe in your research question, and thus you can refine your research question. So that's how the research question gets finer or refined day by day. If you're having a team, if you're having a team of who is working with the same research question, then it'll be really helpful for you. If you're having a mentor along with you, it'll be really helpful because two, three brains working together on a similar topic, that will actually refine the things much more further. So that's how you start with the broad topic of your research question. You bring it, narrow it down, and further refine it and make it the best refined topic by looking at the previous evidences which is already put up in the literature. So once you have put up a question, so these things you need to evaluate later. Is my research question clear? I'll go back to the previous. Say we started with the broader subject of myopia. Then we ended up with a little bit of refined topic of how effective is gene therapy against optical correction in stopping the myopia. And assume that is your question which you have framed. Now, next you need to evaluate, is this research question clear? Is this research question focused? Is there any complexity in this research question? Means, is it difficult for me to do this? Is a research question one of the interest to the researcher, and is it potentially useful to the community? Is this research question has more research gaps so that I can do another research on that? Is it measurable? Is it too broad or is it too narrow? Right? And also you need to identify the types of studies which has been done in the past. Say for example, this particular research question, you need to check for the previous literature reviews and see what kind of designs it has been involved in that. Is it a cross-sectional study or is it an RCT study? So that you will get an idea of how the evidence has already been built up. Say for example, in this topic, how effective is gene therapy? In this topic, if already an RCT is given, it's not there, but if you find that already an RCT is there, then there is no point in doing again a cross-sectional study. Right? There's no point in doing one study down because already the higher order, the highest order of the evidence has already been done. Already that topic is there. Already it has been published. Already the reports are there. Then what's the point in we doing it again? Right? So that's a point. That's why you need to check with the previous study what kind of study designs or what type of study it has been done. Is there a unique area that is yet to be investigated? That's what is a research question or the research gap. Or is there a particular question that is worth replicating? There are few research which they do it again, because if they find it's worth replicating, or they find if they find out that it's something good is coming out of it, they'll do it again. So that you need to check. Then begin to narrow down your topic and ask open-ended questions. You need not ask me with others. You just question yourself, how and why. So once you get a research question, assume if you have thought that, okay, this is the most refined question that I have come out now, then start asking again back to you how it can be done or why. So ask some kind of an open-ended questions so that you will have some kind of an answers, or you'll get some kind of an ideas for that. So you need to develop a hypothesis for this, right? And after that, you need to write down the research question as completely as possible. Okay. For example, now effectivity of optical correction over pharmacological treatment in myopia reduction in children with moderate myopia aged between 5 to 10 years. Okay. See the flow how which the question has come. Initially, it started with a broader term of myopia, and then it further went to little bit finer on how effective is gene therapy or optical correction. And then again, after so much of brainstorming, finally it came out as effectivity of optical correction or pharmacological treatment in myopia reduction in children with moderate myopia aged between 5 to 10 years. So you can see how systematically that research question has been framed now. Okay, so what is the population? Your population is the children aged between 5 to 10 years. What's the intervention? Your intervention we're giving is optical correction. And what is the comparison? Probably maybe a pharmacological comparison of atropine has been put to the child. And what is the outcome? Your outcome is the effectivity, or the outcome is the reduction of myopia. So this is how it covers, or this is how it comes back when it comes to a refined question. So just to give you an brief, so we discussed on steps to frame the research question. So first, to identify the broader subject, do a little bit of preliminary research, and after that, try to narrow it down further. Once you get a research question, try to question this within yourself, and finally write the research question and see how narrowed down or how applicable it is to that particular context. So this is the framework, or this is a general idea of how a research question has been framed. This points has been taken from a published article. I have referenced this, so it is available at the referencing slide later on. Maybe we can share it to you. It is available free of domain. You can take it from PubMed or any online resources. There is yet another method of getting a much more refined research question. So before that, maybe I'll just speak on this evidence-based practice that is called as EBP. So the name itself will suggest there is a clinical expertise, there is a best research evidence, and there is a patient value. So when all these three arms come together, that will end up having something known as an evidence-based practice. So evidence is there, right? So based on the evidence, you are treating the patient. Based on the evidence, you are treating that particular kid. So from where that evidence has come? That evidence has come with so much of literature articles which are already been published, right? So this is the new term, or this is the new way of our further handling of our subjects in terms of evidence-based practice. Because, say, example, you may have your own clinic. A patient comes to you with, say, for example, a child with amblyopia, and you are planning to do a patching test or a patching examination or a patching therapy on that kid. Before you speak, or before you say about that procedure, or before you say introduce that exact procedure to that parent of that kid, the parent itself will open, switch on the mobile and show, see, sir, madam, this is the thing available on the Google. This is there. They're telling something about patching. They're telling something about atropinization. They're telling something about giving glasses. So which one is the best? So in this information era, when it is just within our fingertips, we as a clinicians, we have to be very quick to understand which is a good evidence and which is a bad evidence. And we should be quick to understand, and we should be quick to adopt the best evidence into our practice. So that is called as evidence-based practice. At that point of time, you can't deny what the parent is telling. You have to tell yes, but also you should be competent enough to understand what evidence is true for this particular case and where it has been published, and where is the evidence for that. If the parent is asking, or if the patient is asking, where is the evidence for that? So when you do this kind of an exercise, this is called as an evidence-based practice. So you're practicing based on the evidence. You're not practicing based on what others told. You're not practicing what based on some textbooks told some 10 years back. No, you're practicing on what is the latest information, that is the evidence. Now, why I bought this term evidence-based practice is because if my research question is good, then my research topic will be good. At the end, I will get a good outcome of my research topic. That outcome will add to the evidence into the scenario or into the repository. So if my research question is bad, or if it is fair enough, it doesn't have a good report or it doesn't have a good study, good outcome, even though if I publish it, it's like having a bad evidence or it's like having a fair amount of evidence in the repository. So today, whatever you're doing as a research, whatever you're publishing, that is helpful for someone else when they check your paper, when they're treating their patient, or when they are doing some kind of an intervention study, they will check your paper. They will check the evidence which has come from you. So if your research question is good, if it is properly targeted research question, if a good study has come, if a good outcome has come, you have actually contributed to the research domain or you have contributed to the clinical repository. So at that point of time, another researcher, maybe in another part, maybe some other part of this globe, of this world, he will take your paper or he will take the published research from or the published evidence from your research. So that is a link. So your research topic, it has got its effect on the people. If your research topic is good, if it is a focused research topic, and at the end if you get a good outcome and if you're publishing it, lot of people including clinicians as well as the patients are going to get benefited out of it. If your research question is not good, if there is a flaw in your research question, if the methodology is not proper, if you end up doing some kind of research for the sake of doing, and if you publish it, and finally, that will be a burden, that may be a burden, or that can be a burden to the clinician or to the patients who may take the reference of your research, right? So there is a link between. So the proper research framing, research question framing will always give good evidence for further betterment of the society. This is yet another important thing, maybe which you can keep in mind when you frame your topic. So the previously slides which I told, it was just a brief idea how you frame. But henceforth, when you frame your research question, remember Pico. P stands for patient or population or problem. I stands for intervention or exposure. C stands for the comparison, and O stands for the outcome. Okay, so your research title or your research question, it should have all these aspects in that. The patient level, the patient aspect of the population or the problem aspect should be defined. The intervention should be defined over there. Comparison group should be put up there, and the outcome also should be put up. If you see the previous question, which I had put up, this question, effectivity of the optical correction or pharmacological treatment in myopia reduction in children with moderate myopia aged between 5 to 10. So here if you see what is P or what is the population, here the population is the children with the moderate myopia aged between 5 to 10 years. What is I? Pico. What is I? What is intervention? Here optical correction is the intervention. What is C? Probably we can take pharmacological treatment as a comparison. And what is the outcome? Outcome is the effectivity or outcome is a reduction in the myopia, right? So when your research question has got this aspects of Pico in that, I'll tell you it is the best refined research question which will yield a good outcome for you. So when you do an evidence-based search, or if you want to do an EBP, in that case you need to do a Pico search or this kind of a search. So if you want to do a Pico search or a Pico formula, your title or your question or your research question should have this contents of Pico. P stands for patient or population or problem, I stands for intervention, C stands for comparison, and O stands for outcome. I'll just give an example out of the optometry domain. Does hand washing among healthcare workers reduce hospital acquired infections? So here P is hospital acquired infection, I is hand washing, C is no hand washing or maybe other solutions or mask which is not put up over here, and O is reduced infection. Okay, so in this particular research question, C is not put up there. right? Comparison group is not put up. So sometimes what happens is when you frame a research question, P is important, either I or C is important, and O is important. You may not get all P, I, C, O in a research question, but you will get P and O, and either I or C, right? So this is how. So first, when you frame your research topic, think about a broader topic, narrow it down, narrow it down, narrow it down, come back to the refined topic. And once you come back to the refined topic, just write it down. Okay. And then just see what is P, what is I, what is C, and what is O over there. Try to answer these questions. Okay. And once you brainstorm with this, try to once again further refine your topic. Okay, after further refining your topic, that particular topic will have all the components or maybe few of the components of PICO. So if that PICO component is there in your research question, then it is the well-defined or well-refined research question which will yield up in a good methodological study. Next, so if you are planning for an evidence-based search, so first will be a good forming of your research question. Next will be the searching of this kind of questions in the databases, maybe PubMed or maybe Scopus and so on. Then you will apprise with the critical appraisal tools. Then you'll apply into the setting and then you'll audit. So this 5 terms which I have put up, the 5 steps: ask, acquire, appraise, apply, and audit. These are called as the 5 A's of evidence-based practice. Evidence-based practice is a complete different forum. I'm not bringing it now over here. There is a little bit of linking between framing a research question and EBP. That's why I brought this term over here. Okay, so as per this point of time in this webinar today, we are more interested towards framing a research question. So maybe that ask in this circle, if you see that clockwise circle, the first point is ask, right? So you should be able to ask a relevant question. When you'll be able to ask a relevant question is when your research question is proper, right? So if you further go across, the next step will be acquiring, then will be appraising, then will be applying, and then will be auditing. So this completely will give you the domain of an evidence-based practice. Since evidence-based practice is not our domain today, I am not going into much detail about it, but I'm just stopping that first term, that is ask. So how do you ask? When you ask, you should keep in mind that it should comprise of P, I, C, and O. Patient, intervention, comparison, and outcome. So if your research question has all these ingredients in that, so it means that it's a well-defined or well-refined research question, and it can be taken further for the good research. So if you further take this, this will clear, or this will clear the table of doing an evidence-based practice. So here are a few online databases for you. So maybe you can just check it and you can look, but maybe I will just open one among them and maybe I'll just show it to you. How do you do a PubMed search, or how do you do this kind of a search? Yeah, when you go here, this is how it opens. Say for example, if you want to check, see, that was our brief initial top idea was myopia, right? If you want to say, okay, if you want to know something about myopia, any literatures on myopia, search. And put search, you got around
Hello.
23,792.
Hello.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry to
yes.
interrupt you, sir. Sir, but only your presentation is visible, sir. And this Google Chrome is not yet visible.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah, you have to share your screen with this thing.
Okay, is it visible? Okay. So assume you want to check broadly on myopia. Okay, you just went in and you searched. And you got somewhere around 23,792 studies on myopia, right? So that is how you start. And further, if you want to narrow it down, there is something known as Boolean operators. Maybe regarding this, we can take on some other session. Boolean operators like and, or, and not, which has been used. Say, for example, you want to check on myopia and say children, myopia and children. See, the results will come back to 5,000. From 23,000 comes back to 5,000. And further, if you want to segregate to at the Indian context, so you will get 137 subjects, oh sorry, studies, right? And further, if you want to do it, say moderate myopia, so you'll get something like this. So this process which I'm telling over here is, this is, maybe we'll try another term, orthokeratology. Right? So this is the way how which you actually further narrow down your topic, right? First you think about myopia, okay, you can do some search, then you want to assume you want to do myopia in the children, check for something in the children, put and use this conjunction of and. So when you put that conjunction of and, that will actually further reduce your literature search and will give you some kind of the articles or database which is required for you. Similarly, there is a conjunction or as well as not, right? So this is just a way, just a method of how you can do it. There are a lot of online sessions, YouTube sessions on how to do a good PubMed search. You can just check it. It's available there. So the point of bringing this thing over here is when you frame a question, right? If you want to further refine it, you need to go back and see in the evidence what is already there. So if you want to go back to the evidence and check what is already there, this is the one of the method by which you go and check, right? You go to PubMed, or maybe you can go to some other kind of an online databases. Try to get the articles, try to get the literature search over there, try to get the literature which is already present, and then you see the idea or the topic which you are having, is it same to that, or whatever the research gap is available in that research or in that papers which has already been published, can you take those research gaps and put it into your topic so that your topic will become null, right? So this is the way by which actually you can further refine your topics, right? So I think this will give much more understanding for you. So this is more of an just playing with the words and understanding it. So maybe I can just suggest you go back again and maybe you can try it over again and see what all kind of further narrowing of the research topics it will happen as you put this kind of the conjunctions over there. So I think with this, we will just end up today's session. So like this, we have got some TRIP database, Scopus, CBM, that is evidence-based medicine, and Google Scholar also, which is very much available over there. So these are the few references which will be shared later. We can take it. So thank you. So this is the gist of today's presentations of how you do systematic framing of your research questions. So thank you for your time. So now it's open for your questions. I'll be happy to take up and answer to your queries. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir. It was an obvious informative session to me and to all our audience as well. And now we are open for discussions. Guys, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box below, where I will be reading it out for you all.
Thank you, Anusha.
So far, we don't have any questions, I guess.
Okay, fine. So maybe just to end with the note, maybe we can, I suggest everyone, especially students over here, maybe we can just try this kind of an idea of framing a research question. Think of a broader term and then try to narrow it down. Take help of literature review, maybe PubMed is a standard one, Google Scholar, or any other kind of search engines. See what are the relevant research which has happened in that particular topic or that particular area. See for the research gaps and try to imbibe those research gaps in your research question. That's how your research question will become much more novel. And make sure that when you frame your research question, you will always remember this acronym. It should be feasible, it should be interesting, it should be novel, it should be ethical, relevant, manageable, appropriate. There should be an aspect of publishability, and also it should be systematic. So with this in mind, you can actually frame a very good research question. So if you frame a very good research question, you will be a part of the evidence-based uh, provider, the evidence provider to the natural or to the clinical community, wherein after doing a good Pico search, after doing an acquire, if you do an apprise, apply, and audit, you'll be completing the cycle of an evidence-based practice or evidence-based medicine. Okay, so the first and foremost is you need to have a good Pico search. So if your question is good, if it contains Pico in that, patient, the intervention, the outcome, and the comparison groups in that, or maybe either three of the four, then whatever the topic that you have selected, that will have a good relevance, a good methodology can be framed for that, and a good outcome can be promised from such kind of a good planned research question. So your research question is the go. If it's a good planned research question, your study will be it'll go very well. But if the research question is somewhere not okay, then the rest of the study may have its implication on that. So if there is no any further questions, I think we can stop the session. Thank you for all your time, and this
Sir,
PPT
so
will be
we have,
shared.
sorry, sir,
Yeah,
we have one question.
yeah.
Mr. Vivek Yadav is asking how to make new questionnaires for the research.
Any questionnaires?
Mhm.
You mean questionnaires, is it?
Yeah, he's asking how to make new questionnaires for research.
Okay. So when you do questionnaires, you might have heard about questionnaire-based studies. If you want to frame a good questionnaire, there are different methods. One of the method, what you do is either you get back to the previous studies or the literature where already this sub kind of questionnaires are already been there. Collect some 5-6 studies together, frame your own questions out of that 5-6 studies, and then do a content validation of that, and as well as a face validation. In the sense, whatever that questions you have framed out of those 5-6 studies, you need to give it to different subject experts, and they will give their suggestions. Some changes will happen over there, and once again you will change it, and further you give it, and that's how it becomes validated. That's one method. Or another method is with the help of some kind of a qualitative study, or maybe a focus group discussion or in-depth interviews, you can actually formulate some kind of questions, and then again for subject it to some kind of an validation, content validation, or maybe face validation with the subject experts, and finally you get a review report from them telling that it has been validated, and that's how you end up having a good validated questionnaire for your research study. Hope I have clarified Vivek's doubt. Okay, I think there is no other further question. Then I think we can just end the session over here. This PPT will be sent from ForOptom. You can access it, or you can just talk with Satyam or Anusha and get the PPT.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your precious time and making our heart and mind filled with information and enthusiasm. The presentations were excellent, and we, in fact, could learn a lot. So, this time, I would like to ask you to share your experience to the audience on being here with For Optum today.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Anusha, and thank you, Satyam, for this moment, and as well as for the ForOptom for giving such a platform to discuss on such important topic.
Thank you so much for your kind words, sir. We were
Thank you.
truly honored to have
Thank
you
you.
here. We are grateful towards your effort and generosity. We hope to see you on frequent basis with other upcoming programs and plans, which For Optum will be having very
Sure,
soon. So,
sure.
guys, I
Thank
would
you.
like to
Thanks.
give you a short and essential notice about program which is going to be held tomorrow. It will basically be a panel discussion on approach on binocular vision and vision therapy on various parts of the world. We will be having participants from all around the world, and as a panelist, we will be having Dr. Mark Top from USA, Dr. Sarina Manandar and Dr. Ajit Thakur from Nepal, Dr. Aditya Goyal from India, and Dr. Celine Hang from Australia. Kindly stay tuned at 3:30 p.m. if you are in India, 3:45 p.m. in Nepal, 8 p.m. in Australia, and 5 a.m. in USA, respectively. So, we are at the end of the session for today. Thanks to our audience, organizing teams, and especially to our speaker, Mr. Avinash Prabhu. Stay tuned for more sessions and programs by iBit and For Optum. You can also follow us in social media such as in Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and YouTube. You can visit us in www.foroptum.com for every information yet to come. Stay safe, stay joyful. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.